Welcome to our first episode.
She sounds very unsure.
Welcome to our first show.
Yes, welcome.
It's about food.
And drink.
And drink. This episode is about champagne.
Or sparkling wine.
Both. Because champagne is a sparkling wine from a specific region, produced in a specific way. Hey Jason, it's Lauren. Yeah, hey. Anney and I were wondering if you could send us to the Champagne region of France to... Aren't there some wineries in North Georgia?
Yes, North Georgia. There's wine in them there hills. No, seriously, it even says that on the glassware. We couldn't sell the boss on a trip to France, but the specifications for creating champagnes from vine to bottle are adapted and used all over the world, including at Three Sisters Vineyards. Why a winery in Georgia?
This is where we live, first and foremost. Dahlonega is a pretty special and unique place. We call it the Goldilocks zone because it's not too high, not too low. Gives us some great topography to plant some grapes. We wanted to know if we could make some quality wine here, and I think we have.
If you're going to grow vinifera, which is the top wine grapes in the world, which grow in France and Europe, and they're probably the oldest grapes in the world, which wine has been made from. This is a good area to grow it in Georgia. What goes in the Georgia Cuvée are Chardonnay, Pinot Blanc, and Pinot Noir. And in our Georgia Cuvée Rosé Sparkling, it gets the addition of Merlot at dosage.
The grapes are harvested earlier in the year, typically around early August. The acid's a little bit higher, the wine's a little bit brighter and fresher. They'll be pressed and made into juice. We use the method champenois, which is the traditional method of making sparkling wine. The first step in bottling our Georgia Cuvée is to bottle the base wine. We'll weigh out the encapsulated yeast, pour them into the bottle. The bottles are placed on the filling machine and lifted up to open up the filler, and the wine goes into the bottle to a set level. Then we will seal the bottle with a crown cap so that the CO2 can develop in the bottle under the secondary fermentation. So the first step we're doing here is taking our rosé out of the neck freezer. Neck has been frozen and all the yeast leaves are solidified. We'll go to the disgorger next. The disgorger is what blows all the yeast out. It'll pull the crown cap out. All the yeast leaves get dumped out into a bucket. Then it goes onto the dosage machine, where the dosage is added. Take it off of the dosage machine, put it onto the corker where the sparkling wine cork is inserted. And then onto the wire hood to keep the cork in there. Then we'll give the bottle a couple little shakes, stirs up the dosage, place it into the case to age further in our cellar. When we cork it, it's a special cork for sparkling wines that you use.
There's a tremendous amount of celebration and tradition associated with wine, and pulling the cork is one of those things.
How much bigger it is in diameter. But once it gets in there and is compressed and it's not gonna want to expand anymore, it's still fresh right now, it wants to expand out. And that's why you get that mushroom shape when you pull it out.
It has a wire hood that captures that cork, and without the wire hood, the cork would eventually blow out. It is quite a dangerous process. You're dealing with really high pressures. As the wine has fermented and the yeast have done all the converting of sugar to alcohol and CO2, the yeast will slowly break down. It's a process called autolysis, and it will add a yeasty, bready flavor to the wine. The longer it sits, the little bit more that you will get out of the yeast. We use an encapsulated yeast in our wine. It shortens the riddling process significantly.
Wait, what's riddling?
The riddling process is when we're trying to remove the yeast from the bottle so you have a clear wine. We eventually want to get the bottle to the small ends upside down, and all the yeast have settled down into the neck of the bottle.
There are a lot of challenges. First of all, we have to pay particular attention to our growing season. We have a lot of mildew and fungus issues we have to deal with. We are in Georgia, in a remote area. Everything that we have to source comes from California or Italy or France. There's nothing here that really supports our industry, so everything has to come in.
We're pretty small. Everything from picking the grapes to processing it, to filling the bottle, to putting the yeast in. You can weigh it out one at a time with a little scale. Everything is by hand.
We love wine and we want to show the world that we can do some good things in Georgia. We haven't been known for our wine, you know. Georgia's known for peaches and peanuts and things like that. We hope that soon wine will be on that list, and we're working hard for it.
When we finish up our Georgia cuvées, we want nice fine bubbles to come out of the bottles. We want a very nice nose, whether it be cherries and strawberries from our rosés. We get oranges and lemons out of our Georgia Cuvée Blanc. And then a pretty color as well and clarity.
Sparkling wine has been relegated to celebrations, which is a mistake because it's great and you should drink it every day. Great with fried chicken, try it sometime.
That is really good. Wanna go see a guy open a bottle of champagne with a saber? I got in touch with the master sabreur, a professional at breaking champagne bottles open with a ceremonial saber. He brought us to Yonah Mountain Vineyards in Cleveland, Georgia for a demonstration.
I'm Harry Constantinescu, and I saber champagne.
How did this become a thing?
They used the capital of Champagne to crown the kings of France. Napoleon himself went to military school close to that region, and this is where he met with Rémy Moet, which later will take over the Moet Chandon house, and he would stop with his generals prior to a battle in the Champagne region just to celebrate with champagne. A young officer from Napoleon's army, frustrated with the fact that he couldn't control his horse with one hand and open a bottle of champagne with the other one after a night of party, pulled his sword and beheaded the bottle with the stroke of a blade. Everybody thought that this is a great way to open a bottle of champagne. This is how champagne, I guess, and the noble art of sabrage became associated with royalty, with aristocracy. The Tsars of Russia were drinking champagne also. It started to become very expensive, so it was a symbol. This is not what it is in the Champagne region. They drink it there just as a regular wine. It doesn't have to be a celebration or a birthday to open that bottle. In the past 7, 8, 10 years, I see more and more people trying to learn about sabrage and how it's performed. I came to find out that there's a certain window where you can safely perform sabrage. First of all, the temperature is very important. The point where you hit the bottle, it's also very important. Every bottle will have 2 seams, one seam on one side, one on the other side, and then there's a glass lip where the bottle is closed. So the point where you want to hit it, it's where the seam meets this glass lip. This is where you want to hit it in order to have a clean cut. In the Champagne region, they actually had a very hard time, 200-300 years ago, trying to figure out why the bottle explodes and how to make a better bottle and keep all that pressure. They actually were trying to make a still wine because of the temperature being so cold there. It would start fermenting in springtime, and the bottles, the way they were made at the time, they would explode. But eventually they started to perfect what is known today as champagne or méthode champenoise. I opened bottles of champagne in the past with all kind of objects. So everything that has edge, a metal, is not gonna go on one stroke. This again is just for playing, it's not really sabrage. If you're, I don't know, on a deserted island and all you have is a bottle of champagne and a nail clipper, how are you gonna open it? Well, I guess you could use the traditional way.
Annie?
Lauren?
You have professed to me that you are slightly terrified of opening bottles of sparkling wine. Do you want to do it right now? On camera?
Oh.
You can get it.
You say that now, but when you've lost an eye, you're gonna be singing a different tune.
You're gonna take the foil off.
Okay.
There is a wire cap, otherwise known as a muselet, that is holding that cork in.
From all the pressure
From
that
the
might...
6 atmospheres of pressure that are inside that bottle.
Yeah, let's open this right now.
Then untwist the twisty bit.
Okay, and it's gonna explode after I do this.
No.
When does the explosion happen?
You're gonna take the towel, get a good grip. I would recommend getting a grip with your non-towel hand. Kind of brace it, yeah?
Okay.
All right, and then just grab the cork with your toweled hand. And then just sort of wiggle. Just kind of.
I could have been nice and poured it for her, but...
You could have.
think about wines in terms of dimensions. You have two-dimensional wines, everything they have to offer, it's in front of you. Then you add the dimension of depth. And then there's wines, very rare, but when you find them, you will know them, that you add the dimension of time. You are just not at the table anymore, you are elsewhere. Those are what I call four-dimensional wines. Each individual has his own portal to the fourth dimension through wine. What does it for me won't do it for you. There are quite a few out there. You just have to find them.
So what have we learned here today?
Don't be intimidated by champagne.
Or sparkling wine.
Try it with whatever you'd like, however you'd like.
Whatever you'd like.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, yes.
There are people watching this.
Thank you for watching this, our pilot episode. There is more fried chicken.
Oh, really? And more sparkling wine.
There's more sparkling wine.
Interesting.